What book fucked you up mentally? Night Shift by Stephen King, a collection of short horror stories. I was around 10 when I started really getting into reading, and my dad had a lot of Stephen King on the shelf, so I naturally started reading his stuff. I remember many nights staying up far too late after reading, just waiting to hear "So Nice" come from my closet. Some of those stories genuinely fucked up my young mind. The Hot Zone just made me paranoid I'd catch Ebola. Watership Down by Richard Adams. A bloody story about rabbits. Who knew? Scary stories to read in the dark. Decided to read The Shining. Ended up getting snowed in with my family on our farm halfway through the book, and finished it before we could get out. In retrospect, I should have read it during the summer. American Psycho by Bret Easton Ellis. Much more horrifying than the movie. One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. The yellow wallpaper fucked me up for quite a while. Go ask Alice. I read it when I was 12. It was the first time I had read a book like this, and it shook me to my core at the end. I read Sylvia Plath's The Bell Jar when I was in 7th grade for accelerated reader points, and I haven't been the same person since. I really think Unwind by Neil Shusterman is interesting. There is a chapter in which you are put into the perspectives of the minor antagonist as he slowly gets torn limb by limb and organ by doctors. All of his organs get taken out one by one, in non-descriptive detail, until there is nothing left of him. It didn't really fuck me up mentally, but I thought it was fucked up. Additional note, it even gets more fucked up when you remember that the person who is getting torn limb from limb, harvested for organs, is legally a child. It by Stephen King. I read the first chapter when I was about 8 and literally spent the next 2 weeks shivering in my bed every night until I got up the courage to talk to Dad, who went and spoiled the ending to reassure me. Not a book, but a short story. The Lottery. I Have No Mouth and I Must Scream gave me nightmares. Flowers for Algernon, the first book I had a big emotional reaction to. House of Leaves was really unsettling. Misery by Stephen King. That book slowly breaks you as you keep hoping that the protagonist survives the horrors he faces. Where the Red Fern Grows. Being forced to read that sent grade school me through a roller coaster of emotions. Edit. I really appreciate all the upvotes and people sharing their stories/experiences with this book. I figure I'll share mine. I was a bookworm between 5th and 6th grade and was really enjoying the book, so I decided to read ahead and finish the book. Needless to say, 11-year-old me crawled in bed, cried like a baby. Then after the whole class finished the book, we went on to watch the movie in class. It resulted in a room full of kids sobbing. I can only assume this is why I have more sympathy towards animals than I do people. This book definitely left an impact on many of us. Mark Twain's autobiography, where he said, "But who prays for Satan? Who in 18 centuries has had the common humanity to pray for the one sinner that needed it most?" It changed the way 14y/Omi saw theology forever. The Plague from Camus. And then there were none *fantastically* plotted. Some great characterization. A truly awful sense of dread. The best mystery novel ever for a reason. A child called it Bridge to Terabithia. I also had a very visceral reaction to Tuck Everlasting. I read all this shit about Techbrus trying to crack the code to extend human life indefinitely, and I'm like, why? I wouldn't say fucked me up, but after reading The Curious Case of the Dog in the Nighttime, it really made me a more understanding and open-minded person. I would say fucked me up in the sense it made me realize that mental illness or no, everyone's brain works differently, and people may have an underlying trauma or reason why they do the things they do. The Giving Tree. That kid was so ungrateful, and the tree gave him everything it had. Brave New World by Aldous Huxley. Blew my young mind away and really made me think about how society is organized. The Lovely Bones and Lolita, both books I had to read for a course. I'll never reread them. Truly disturbing. Of Mice and Men. The Things They Carried by Tim O'Brien. It tells the story of American soldiers in Vietnam during the war, along with explaining what mental and physical things that each held. What screwed me up mentally was that you couldn't trust the author. You didn't know whether he was telling the truth or making the story up. Edit. Thank you for all the upvotes and the awards. Lord of the Flies. when I first read Animal Farm in my early teens. I was at the age where I could recognize the parallels with real life, and it fucked me up for a long while. Sharp objects. It was the inception of minfucks for me. Flowers in the attic. The Giver. Johnny got his gun. Edit. Thank you very much strangers for the silver and platinum. Very undeserved, but I appreciate it greatly. This was the first book I ever read front to back, and it was shell-shocking. Night by Elie Wiesel. There is nothing more unsettling than reading the inner thoughts of a Holocaust survivor. Edit. Thank you guys for sharing your personal experiences and stories. I've read practically all of them, and even attempted to comment on as many of them as I could. You're some truly amazing people. Haunted by Chuck Palahniuk. Perfume. To Kill a Mockingbird, except it wasn't so much the book itself as the additional reading I had to do for it. I had to write a paper about the juxtaposition between the book itself and the Scottsboro Boys trials. Reading about those really messed me up for a while. The Kite Runner. Crime and Punishment by Dostoevsky really puts you in the mind of a twisted dude and shows a lot of other twisted people doing bad things, among others, pedophile, child prostitution so a family can eat. Cat in the Hat. I was molested when I was 7, and I knew what happened, so whenever the cat said your mother won't mind, flashbacks back to when I was 7. Saving this whole thread. Probably passing on the JavaScript one. I hear the plot is thin. 1984. Memnoch the Devil. Before that I had never thought of a version of God that was good and powerful but imperfect. The Book Thief. Schindler's List. As if the book wasn't enough, our teacher made us watch the movie. Not to mention, as someone who kicks theirself for forgetting something that seems completely obvious after the fact, reading how he recalls name after name that he couldn't remember to put on that list until said list was sent, killed me. Edgar Allan Poe's Cask of Amontillado.